separated, only recommended if unstable, either the mother or the baby. Baby can be given express breast milk by the caregiver. So, nutshell I want to say is breastfeeding should be encouraged. The mother and baby should not be separated, and precautions can be taken until unless any of them is unstable. So, both unstable and sick need ICU care managed as per critical care needs. So, mother and baby are not separated and breastfeeding encouraged. Neonates with respiratory distress, CPAP preferred over the mechanical ventilation. Only treatment which is known as the corticosteroids and plus minus IVIG, and nutrition supplements to start feeds early. I think that's the bottom line for every human. I want to touch on this adolescent pregnancies and one obesity I will touch. So adolescent pregnancies, pregnancy in girls between age of 10 to 19 years, what are the basic determinants for this is maternal marriage to an older age partners, lack of family planning, lower education status, poverty, substance abuse and peer pressures, child of an adolescent mother, single parent household, and depression or the absence of both the parents. These are determinants when there is adolescent pregnancy can happen. So any adolescent pregnancy, we know lesser the age, the chance of preeclampsia are more. Higher the age, again the chance of preeclampsia are more. PPROM, maternal anemia, STDs, the prematurity and low birth rate for the baby, parental asphyxia, and maternal neonatal mortality is known with these factors. SLE, in SLE, we know these are the features which are there, the 11 factors, foot sensor rash, oral ulcer, and all those things. For the neonate, we can have the skin rash or the raccoon eyes, congenital heart block, elevated liver enzymes, pancytopenia, hydrocephalus, or macrophagy. This is due to the antibody passage from the maternal placenta to the baby. So anti-Rho, anti-La antibodies are passed on. So this is a baby which shows the raccoon eyes, and this rash is transient, it goes on its own. The problem happens here at this point. If you have congenital heart block, antibodies pass before the 20 weeks. So there is a congenital heart block. You have to do a continuous monitoring. If the heart rate is less than 55 or you have any features of high drops, we need to put a pacemaker and serial echocardiography should be done. We need to see for the high drops or the failure in the baby. Maternal obesity. Often this is not taken care of. The call comes that mother is obese and we are giving the baby. Usually the neonatologist or the pediatrician leaves it, ठीक है, mothers मोटी होती हैं, ठीक, कोई problem नहीं. But there are so many complications of maternal obesity. Early development of the embryo happens. So epigenetic changes and programming of the stem cells. Placental changes. Alteration in the nutrient transport, inflammation and lipotoxicity. Neonatal programming of metabolism and obesity, cardiometabolic risk factors. So what happens is for the mother, there is gestational diabetes, gestational hypertension, thromboembolism, pelvic pain, obstructive sleep apneas, postpartum complications and increased cardiovascular risk. At birth, there is increased need of operative delivery, failed trial of labor, uterine rupture, maternal morbidity and neonatal injuries. Because the baby gets usually stuck at that point. For the neonate, structural birth defects, necrosomias, prematurity, hypoglycemia, stillbirth, NICU admissions are more, early development of metabolic disease. Earlier, I think I was not knowing this much before we started a thesis in our unit last year, because maternal obesity and neonatal complications. So I had put 2 slides on this. 1 minute, 21 seconds. Okay. Viral infections in the mother. So we are talking about this CMV, herpes simplex. There's a lot of list, but I'll cover only the gist of it. Varicella zoster, rubella virus, hepatitis B, HIV, and parvovirus B19. So this is the torches group of infection or the starch group of infection. So maternal complications as a whole can be prematurity for the baby, GDM, preeclampsia, pregnancy loss, and maternal death. Fetal and neonatal complications, we know all this: IUTR, stillbirths, microcephaly, hearing loss, neurodevelopmental disorders, ocular abnormalities, retinopathies, motor disorders, and cardiac effects. So I made as a whole. Hematological toxicity happens in B19, parvovirus B19 and HIV. Cardiac effects, rubella, HSV, and B19. Ocular abnormalities in varicella, CMV, HSV, rubella, and parvovirus B19. Bone lesions, HIV and HSV. Hearing loss, CMV, HSV, and rubella. Immunodeficiency with HIV, we all know this. and brain injury can happen with CMV, rubella, B19, HSV. So there can be calcification, there can be microcephaly, and mental retardation is common with this. So these are the features which we have already discussed. I'll go fast on this. Sorry. So the take-home messages: preeclampsia with severe features, delivery is a definite treatment. For the GDM, adequate euglycemic control GDM can prevent many complications. Screening for congenital hyperthyroidism should be done for all babies, and no mother and baby separation required for cases of COVID infection. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kamal. First of all, I must congratulate organizers because they have smartly chosen the topic which is connecting both mother and baby. So दोस्ती between neonatologist and obstetrician. And secondly, sir, hats off to you कि इतने बड़े topic को you have presented in so this time.
Thank you.
And you have smartly chosen the obesity, which is very important, and secondly adolescent pregnancy because we are getting cases for that also.
Yes, because when we started with this,
we are getting
with the gynae and we started with this, so it
and
was.
Right now in our unit, one patient is there whose both the parents have expired in some accident and she is pregnant and she is adolescent. So you have correctly put those risk factors also. So hats off to you. So big topic but so concise form.
I was a little fast because I thought the time was already here.
I think both of us, obstetrician and pediatrician, both have understood that topic nicely. Right?
Thank you.
Any questions? If you.
She wants to say.
At the outset, I would like to congratulate the Department of Pediatrics and GMC Anantnag for organizing this. And I want to congratulate you on having a very concise and excellent narration of this topic. You covered almost everything. I would just like to add that advanced age. That is one of the most, in the present times, because most of our patients are now in very advanced stage, and day in and day out we are facing some, they have Down syndrome and others, and usually I get one patient per OPD like that. So otherwise, very excellent narration.
I have a few comments, Dr. Kamal sir. You have presented well, but due to shortage of time, preventive aspects need to be taken. Just like in the farm, the soil should be fertile and it should be free of pesticides, and it should be manured and to get a good crop. And that is one thing we have to reciprocate in the mother's womb. The mother should be very healthy. Anemia is a constant problem in our society. Extremes of age, not spacing the pregnancies is another issue. Then we have to take preventive aspects by vaccinating the mother before the pregnancy or during pregnancy with the safe vaccines which are age appropriate and which should not harm during the pregnancy. We should avoid those. And we should avoid certain infections which we cannot vaccinate the mothers, like chickenpox and rubella and measles during pregnancy. She should be kept away from people who are suffering from infections. Then another thing, I'm an environmentalist too. Noise pollution, light pollution, pollution to substances like smoking, alcohol, lead in the youngsters is a big problem, and household air pollution has a direct impact on the fetal outcome. There has been stillbirths, preterms, low birth weight with babies, and babies with a lot of problems. So environmental issues, nutritional issues, pollution issues, they also need to be addressed when we are counseling the adolescents as well as young mothers in the first trimester, second trimester, third trimester. And we should test for all the diseases which we can during the pregnancies, so we can immediately take corrective measures, if any, like hepatitis B, HIV, immediately after birth. So that was a wonderful talk. you so much.
Sir, points well taken. So, because of crux of time, the session, but thank you, sir, for the encouragement.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening the topic. I request the speakers and chairpersons to collect the mementos from selfie point outside. Now, the next session is about antenatal interventions to improve neonatal outcome. I request the chairpersons of the session to come upon the podium. Dr. Baljinder Kaur, Head of Department Pediatrics, Government Medical College, Patiala. Dr. Kaisar Ahmed Kaur, former Head of Department and former Principal, Government Medical College, Srinagar. Dr. Murjana Kond, Assistant Professor, Department of Pediatrics, AIMS, Guwahati. Dr. Navindu and Dr. Mushtaq Ahmed Butt, Professor Pediatrics, KIMS. I request the chairpersons to introduce the speaker, Dr. Amit Upadhyay. Thank you.
Dr. Amit Upadhyay doesn't need any introduction. He's MD, DNB, MNAMS, DM Neonatology, AIMS New Delhi, fellowship in Monza, Australia, 2004 to 2006, former HOD Pediatrics, LLRM, Medical College, Meerut, then Director and Head of Department Pediatrics and Neonatology, Nutema Hospital, Meerut, and in charge level 3B and ICU, and Director and Head of Department Pediatrics and Neonatology, Nutema Hospital, Meerut, and in charge of level 3B and ICU. And he's a treasurer of our current NNF. And he has got so many achievements which will not be fitting into this slide. So.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm feeling like a rock star. One, after the introduction, and second, after wearing this this mic. So continuing the perinatology symposium, we'll be discussing antenatal and delivery interventions to improve neonatal outcomes. And we read in the talk by Dr. Kamal that what are the complications which can arise in mothers who are high risk, who have high risk pregnancy. And so in standard risk or high risk, how do we monitor, and what all interventions in antenatal period will help improve neonatal outcome? We will discuss that briefly. So there are about 10 key antenatal interventions and antenatal and delivery interventions which help in reduction of neonatal mortality. So there are some obstetricians also in the audience. Why are we having this? So basically, obstetricians have to understand. My basic grudge with obstetricians is they think that delivery is for sake of the mother, and their focus is totally on the mother. Now, mother को ये problem है तो इसलिए कर लेते हैं. Mother is being discharged तो baby को discharge कर देते हैं. And when the entire process of birth is for the baby who is coming over, and so our all interventions which we do should be centered around the baby who is coming over. Global burden of neonatal deaths is quite high. About 2.6 million newborns die each year, and 2.6 million babies are stillborn. So it's a huge burden. 300,000 women die because of pregnancy and childbirth. More than 1 million newborns die the first day of life, making the day of birth most dangerous day for babies in nearly every country. So this is the demographic profile based on incidence of neonatal mortality in India, and we can't take pride in coming from one of the 4 states, or the Bimaru states as it was coined, which have maximum mortality, neonatal mortality. And Rajasthan, UP, MP and Odisha and Chhattisgarh They have mortality which contributes to 56% of neonatal deaths. These 4 states contribute to almost 56% of neonatal deaths. And more astonishingly, they contribute to about 15% of entire global neonatal deaths. So these 4 states, 1/6 of all world neonatal mortality is contributed by these few states. Now, some demographic factors which affect neonatal mortality are how well is the family financially placed. Poorest 20% have almost more than double the neonatal mortality as compared to the richest 20% in that region. Rural mortality is more than urban mortality because again antenatal and perinatal and neonatal services are poorer in rural area as compared to urban area. The maternal age also impacts neonatal mortality. So less than 20 years have higher mortality as compared to maternal ages between 20 to 29 at time of birth. And interval between 2 pregnancies also has a bearing. If you have an inter-pregnancy interval of less than 2 years, your mortality is almost double of if you have 2 years. And so better is to have increase inter-pregnancy interval. So these are few things which we should know, because interventions will be based on these demographic profiles. Then what are the common causes of neonatal death in India? So prematurity is number 1, accounting for almost 2/3 of all deaths in the SNCUs which are there. Sepsis, asphyxia. These are the 3 most common causes of death. Nearly 50% of preterms die due to RDS, which also have a lot of superadded sepsis and pneumonias and other complications. Then a lot of mortality is babies who are admitted in an ICU and then they are discharged. And some are born at home and they die at home. So then